Hello.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We made it another week. We didn't do it on Tuesday. We did it on Wednesday this week. I had a meeting I had to go to last night. But
I think I just want to say Nick Brilliant is having a live stream tonight. So I think it's on now. But so, there might be
we're in a fight.
It's okay. People can always catch up later.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching this after, because it doesn't look like anyone's here yet. If you're watching this later afterwards, we're glad you're here. We're glad to be here. It's the fourth week of Great Lent. We've made it over today is officially the halfway mark between, of the 40 days. And then we have Holy Week after that, a week of Holy Week. So, but we're halfway through Great Lent, and I pray that it's been blessed for you, and that you're moving closer to God in your relationship with Him.
Well, certainly it's blessed, but I have to say that there is, and all these things coincide with our seasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
There is this transformative movement happening in the cosmos.
Yeah.
And it's moving towards life, out of death and into life. And I don't know about anybody else, but for me, that's always like reflective. Like it's just a session of reflection and work to do.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of work to do, especially on a farm. Yeah. I'm sure you have a lot more work to do than I do. So.
Well, the way I look at it is what doesn't get done is waiting for me tomorrow. So no pressure. I gave up on that a long time ago.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I tell people, that's an interesting thing that I learned living on a farm, was that you have a plan. There's like a triage of things, because there's a list of things that always just, and you have your daily chores. You go out and you have to do daily chores. You got to feed and water the animals and whatever. But you have your little plan of like, okay, well, we're going to fix this fence today. And then you walk out and the animals have gotten out, or they knocked something down, or then they got into something. And then now that's your plan today. So, you might have had these grandiose ideas of doing this thing. And then you walk out and, your farm has a different plan for you, and you have to be flexible with it. You can't just be like, no, I'm going to ignore this very urgent thing where my animals are out in the road right now, and I'm going to do what I was planning on doing. I'm not going to let anyone interrupt my plans, right? Like it's like you can get that office, if you try to have that office worker mentality, like you'll just lose.
Oh, Jeremy, one time I got a phone call early in the morning from a rancher down the road. And at the time I was living in a more, 10-acre parcels area. And I had
the suburbs.
Yeah, I had two Highland cows there where I was staying, and I got a phone call early in the morning. Hadn't even really got my coffee down, and it was, your cows are on the road. And I was like, what? And I mean, these guys are just wild. Like, they're not the kind of cows you can walk up and halter and drag home. So I called my mother, and she came. I said, we're going to drive out, find them. I'm going to get out with a bucket of grain, and I'm going to walk, and you're going to drive slowly behind me. And I did this for days. I could not get these cows to turn off that main road, because there was a ranch across my street went up like this, and there was a ranch across the road, and there were cows in there, and they wanted in there. Finally, two guys in the neighborhood, the rancher and another guy, they just cut the fence and let them go in, and then repaired it, and called me. Thank God, because I just had no clue. I was on my own at the time.
Yeah,
and I had no clue. And then another time, I got up in the morning to go garden, and
look at this.
Hey,
Nate's here.
Hello.
Square corner shall be pounded round. Those who know. I'm not on that list, apparently.
Square corner shall be pounded round.
I don't know if that's a scripture or if that's Freemasonry, but either way, we're glad you're here.
I don't know.
I'm glad you're here, Nate. Nice to see you.
But yeah, this is, I guess maybe he's talking about perhaps well-laid plans, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, I walked out of the house with my bucket and all my tools, and I had like planned 8 hours because my garden was just horrendous at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a goat in it, and I'm like, what's he doing in there? Because we've got these vertical saplings that we nailed to the fence, and they're pretty high.
Yeah.
She jumped for some reason. She jumped in there, and she was a yearling doe that I wanted to keep, and her leg was broken. She got it caught in the fence, and her front leg was just,
Yeah.
And I had spoken to somebody who related my story of how I had a billy goat kid that got his foot caught in a pallet and broke it, or leg, and we had to put him down. And anyway, and someone told someone else this story, and this random woman emailed me and said, never, never, never kill a goat for a broken leg. It's so easy to fix. And she just kind of whipped off this, how you do it.
Wow.
And then lo and behold, I had another one with a broken leg. So I went to town, left her in there. I knew she wasn't going anywhere. Went to town, got all the supplies, came home, called a friend. She came over, we wrestled her down, and I set her leg, and I had that goat for 18 years after that.
Wow.
Yeah. All by myself. My husband was away.
That lady was right.
She was absolutely right. It's
that's
so easy. You know what it was? It was, well, I mean, I bought cast, but that I had to get rid of because it just got wet and gross. But you just take a black PVC pipe. I don't know what it was. Maybe a 2
half-inch.
No, it was like a.
Oh, to go on the outside?
Yeah, and you layer it with cotton batting, which you can buy at a pharmacy for casts, right? A big roll of it.
Right.
And I mean, if the bone's not protruding, you can do this. If the bone's protruding, you have to go to a vet, right? But she didn't have any bone protruding through the skin. So, and then you just lay that in there, make sure it's straight, right? Put the other half on, and you got to make it fairly tight so it holds the bone in place. And then you just wrap it with duct tape.
There you go. Sweet.
6 weeks later, you take it off, and I mean, I checked it after a week just to make sure, it hadn't compacted too much, or she had enough circulation and stuff like that, and put it on again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great, and the PVC doesn't get wet and mushy.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good idea.
She walked on it.
Wow.
You leave her foot sticking out. And it was crazy.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So anyway, that was just on the tail end of your.
Yeah, it's the example of you have a plan, and then you walk out, and then you have a different plan, and that's okay, right? It's like you can't get like worked up, but like there are occasionally things that are deadlines or things that don't move, but most things in farm life are pretty flexible, right? Like most things that need to be done are like nice to haves, but not necessarily need to haves. Nice to do, but not need to.
Yesterday, we've got, I don't know if you can see it out there, probably not, but there's a shelter, and our tractors are our compact tractor and our lawn tractor are out there. And my husband had to tarp it because the shelter itself got holes in it. So he tarped it. And in the spring, we have wicked winds here, right? And it's been like 17 degrees Celsius here. She's like summer almost.
Yeah, it was like 75 here today.
Yeah. And anyway, I hear this big noise, and I look outside, and this tarp, which is strapped, like it's tied down, it's acting like a parachute.
Oh yeah.
Over the thing, and it's just ripping to shreds. And I'm thinking it's going to rip the whole shelter off. And again, I'm on my own here, so frantically, running out there and dealing with a tarp that's going to rip my shelter off and expose all my stuff.
Right, all your equipment to the heavens. We don't want that.
Yeah, so when people talk about, I don't want to talk about the weather, I'm just like, well, I do.
Yeah, it's a significant part of your
weather. What's the weather?
Yeah. It was so it was 24 Celsius here today. It's crazy.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's nice. But
Yeah, we had some major melt going on. Like, actually, yesterday I parked my snowmobile and just put it. I had enough snow to drive out, check on my tent, come home, drive on the snow, park my snowmobile where it goes for the summer, and then today there's no snow left in any of those places. That's how quickly it melted.
Wow, the Chinooks came.
Yeah, just whoosh, and the wind,
Yeah.
right? The wind picks it up and
Yeah, that's the Chinooks.
Mhm.
Yeah, I learned that when I was in Canada. The south winds that come and melt the snow in the
And it
springtime.
goes so fast.
It's
So
nice.
fast, yeah.
What's that?
It goes so fast.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You know, you're in the heart of winter and then all of a sudden, boom, you know,
Yep, then you're not.
it's over.
Yeah, you spring right out of it.
But you were, before we went live, you were talking about something that Father Paul did a talk on, and I wanted to hear.
Father Paul, he did a video this week on just a couple, or it came out yesterday. It was on somebody asked him, should Orthodox Christians be street preachers? Should they do street evangelism? And he's like, it's interesting because he's like, I've been a priest for 14 years now, and for 10 of those years I have never gotten that question. And then for the last 4 years I get this question all the time because of all the people who are coming front with that background of, you know, street preaching, and you know, they've got that hunger in their bones, right? So
for the other person's soul.
Yeah, I mean, there, you know, and so he addressed it, and he was just like, well, it's a the short answer is no. He said, if you wanted to put out a sign, like if you wanted to put out a table and you said, I'm an Orthodox Christian, ask me anything, and you have some brochures on the table, I think that's fine. He said, but in our culture, like if you're yelling at someone, he was like, a lot of times, you know, I feel like someone's preaching at me, not to me, right? So they're not talking to me, they're preaching at me. And he was like, we would definitely want to avoid that. And he said, and then the other thing is, you know, he said, I had a teacher in seminary who said, do you know why Orthodox Christians don't go door to door like our friends the Mormons or the Jehovah's Witnesses?
Oh yeah, especially where
and
you are.
He said, well, it's because it's for the same reason why Ferrari salesmen don't go door to door. You kind of got to know what you're in for, right? It's kind of a big, or it's like why you don't sell farms door to door. It just doesn't.
Costly.
You kind of got to know what you're in for.
Is that the gist of it? It's costly.
Yeah, it's costly, and it's there's a lot to it, right? Like you don't just switch one day. It takes a lot of time. I mean, it takes. Saint Sophrony said it takes at least 10 years for someone who's Western mind to gain the Orthodox phronema, the Orthodox way of looking at things and doing things. Yeah. And so it's anyway, that was it was a fun video. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. There was another one I saw this week and I wanted to share it, and now I can't remember what it was. So hopefully it comes to me during the show. There was another video I saw this week that was just really good, and I thought would be really good to share, but now I have to remember. So, but I won't worry about it right now. We have lots to do. We have lots of saints to talk about.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's do a prayer real quick. Illumine our hearts, O Master, who lovest mankind with the pure light of thy divine knowledge. Open the eyes of our mind to the understanding of thy gospel teachings, and plant also in us the fear of thy blessed commandments, that trampling down all carnal desires we may enter upon a spiritual manner of living, while thinking and doing such things as are well-pleasing unto thee. For thou art the illumination of our souls and bodies, O Christ our God. And unto thee we ascribe glory, together with thy Father, who is from everlasting, and thine all holy, good, and life-giving Spirit, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen.
Amen.
So, as a nod to our visiting Anglican, I will share Saint Cuthbert first. Saint Cuthbert, wonder worker of Britain, commemorated March 20th, so 2 days from now, on Friday. Saint Cuthbert, the wonder worker of Britain, was born in Northumbria around 634. Very little information has come down to us about Cuthbert's early life, but there is a remarkable story of him when he was 8. As a child, Cuthbert enjoyed games and playing with other children. He could beat anyone his own age, and even some who were older, at running, jumping, wrestling, and other exercises. One day, he and some other boys were amusing themselves by standing up on their heads with their feet up in the air. A little boy who was about 3 years old chided Cuthbert for his inappropriate behavior. "Be sensible," he said, "and give up these foolish pranks." Wow, a 3-year-old said that. That's fun. Cuthbert and the others ignored him, but the boy began to weep so piteously that it was impossible to quiet him. When they asked him what the matter was, he shouted, "Oh, holy bishop and priest Cuthbert, these unseemly stunts in order to show off your athletic ability do not become you or the dignity of your office." Cuthbert immediately stopped what he was doing and attempted to comfort the boy. On the way home, he pondered the meaning of those strange words. From that time forward, Cuthbert became more thoughtful and serious. This incident reveals St. Cuthbert as God's chosen vessel, just like Samuel, David, Jeremiah, John the Baptist, and others, who from an early age were destined to serve the Lord. On another occasion, he was suffering from an injured knee. It was quite swollen, and the muscles were so contracted that he limped and could scarcely place his foot on the ground. One day, a handsome stranger of noble bearing, dressed in white, rode up on horseback to the place where Cuthbert was sitting in the sun beside the house. The stranger asked courteously if the boy would receive him as a guest. Cuthbert said that if only he were not hampered by his injuries, he would not be slow to offer hospitality to his guest. The man got down from his horse and examined Cuthbert's knee, advising him to cook up some wheat flour with milk and to spread the warm paste on his sore knee. After the stranger had gone, it occurred to him that the man was really an angel who had been sent by God. A few days later, he was completely well. From that time forward, as St. Cuthbert revealed in later years to a few trusted friends, he always received help from angels whenever he prayed to God in desperate situations. In his prose, Life of St. Cuthbert, St. Bede of Jarrow reminds skeptics that it is not unknown for an angel to appear on horseback, citing 2 Maccabees 11 and 4 Maccabees 4. While the saint was still young, he would tend his master's sheep in the Lammermuir Hills south of Edinburgh, near the River Leader. One night while he was praying, he had a vision of angels taking the soul of St. Aidan to heaven in a fiery sphere. Cuthbert awakened, and other shepherds had told them, Cuthbert awakened the other shepherds and told them what he had seen. He said that this must have been the soul of a holy bishop or some other great person. A few days later, they learned that Bishop Aidan of Lindisfarne had reposed at that very hour that Cuthbert had seen his vision. As an adult, St. Cuthbert decided to give up his life in the world and advanced to better things. He entered the monastery at Melrose in the valley of the Tweed, where he was received by the abbot St. Boissel. St. Cuthbert was accepted into the community and devoted himself to serving God. His fasting and vigils were so extraordinary that the other monks had marveled at him. He often spent entire nights in prayer and would not eat anything for days at a time. Who can describe his angelic life, his purity, or his virtue? Much of this is known only to God, for St. Cuthbert labored in secret in order to avoid the praise of men. A few years later, St. Ida chose some monks of Melrose to live at the new monastery at Ripon. Among them was St. Cuthbert. Both Ida and Cuthbert were expelled from Ripon and sent back to Melrose in 661 because they and some other monks refused to follow the Roman calculation for the date of Pascha. The Celtic Church, which followed a different, older reckoning, resisted Roman practices for a long time. However, in 664, the Synod of Whitby determined that the Roman customs were superior to those of the Celtic Church and should be adopted by all. St. Bede discusses this question in his History of the English Church and People. St. Cuthbert was chosen to be abbot of Melrose after the death of St. Boissel. Guiding the brethren by his words and by his example, he made journeys throughout the surrounding area to encourage Christians and to preach the gospel to those who had never who had never heard it. Sometimes he would be away from the monastery for a month at a time, teaching and preaching. He also worked many miracles, healing the sick and freeing those who were possessed by demons. In 664, Cuthbert went with St. Ida to Lindisfarne and extended his territory to include the inhabitants of Northumberland and Durham. Soon St. Ida appointed Cuthbert as prior of Lindisfarne, Holy Island. At that time, both monasteries were under the jurisdiction of St. Ida. While at Lindisfarne, St. Cuthbert continued his habit of visiting the common people in order to inspire them to seek the kingdom of heaven. Though some of the monks preferred their negligent way of life to the monastic rule, St. Cuthbert gradually brought them around to a better state of mind. At first, he had to endure many arguments and insults, but eventually he brought them to obedience through his patience and gentle admonition. He had a great thirst for righteousness, and so he did not hesitate to correct those who did wrong. However, his gentleness made him quick to forgive those who repented. When people confessed to him, he often wept in sympathy with their weakness. He also showed them how to make up for their sins by doing their penances himself. St. Cuthbert was a true father to his monks, but his soul longs for complete solitude, so he went to live on a small island, St. Cuthbert's Isle, a short distance from Lindisfarne. After gaining victory over the demons through prayer and fasting, the saint decided to move even farther away from his fellow men. In 676, he retired to Innerfarne, an even more remote location. St. Cuthbert built a small cell which could not be seen from the mainland. A few yards away, he built a guest house for visitors from Lindisfarne. There he remained for nearly 9 years. A synod at Twyford, with the Holy Archbishop Theodore presiding, elected Cuthbert Bishop of Hexham in 684. Letters and messengers were sent to inform him of the synod's decision, but he refused to leave his solitude. King Egfrith and Bishop Trumwine went to him in person, entreating him in Christ's name to accept. At last, St. Cuthbert came forth and went with them to the synod. With great reluctance, he submitted to the will of the synod and accepted the office of bishop. Almost immediately, he exchanged sees with St. Ida and became Bishop of Lindisfarne, while St. Ida went to Hexham. Bishop Cuthbert remained as humble as he had been before his consecration, avoiding finery and dressing in simple clothing. He fulfilled his office with dignity and graciousness while continuing to live as a monk. His virtue and holiness of life only served to enhance the authority of his position. His life as Bishop of Lindisfarne was quite similar to what it had been when he was prior of that monastery. He devoted himself to his flock, preaching and visiting people throughout his diocese, casting out demons and healing all manner of diseases. He served as a bishop for only 2 years, however. Once St. Cuthbert was invited to Carlisle to ordain 7 deacons to the holy priesthood. The holy priest Herbert was living in solitude on an island in that vicinity. Hearing that his spiritual friend Cuthbert was staying at Carlisle, he went to see him in order to discuss spiritual matters with him. St. Cuthbert told him that he should ask him whatever he needed to ask, for they would not see one another in this life again. When he heard that St. Cuthbert would die soon, Herbert fell at his feet and wept. By God's dispensation, the 2 men would die on the very same day. Though he was only in his early 50s, St. Cuthbert felt the time of his death was approaching. He laid aside his archpastoral duties, retiring to the solitude of Innerfarne shortly after the feast of the Lord's Nativity in 686 to prepare himself. He was able to receive visitors from Lindisfarne at first, but gradually he weakened and was unable to walk down to the landing stage to greet them. His last illness came upon him on February 27th, 687. The pious priest Herefrith, later the abbot of Lindisfarne, came to visit him that morning. When he was ready to go back, he asked St. Cuthbert for his blessing to return. The saint replied, "Do as you intend. Get into your boat and return safely home." St. Cuthbert also gave Father Herefrith instructions for his burial. Here, he asked to be laid to rest east of the cross that he himself had set up. He told him where to find a stone coffin hidden under the turf. "Put my body in it," he said, "and wrap it in the cloth you will find there." The cloth was a gift from Abbess Verka, but St. Cuthbert thought it was too fine for him to wear. Out of affection for her, he kept it to be used as his winding sheet. Father Herefrith wanted to send some of the brethren to look after the dying bishop, but St. Cuthbert would not permit this. Go now and come back at the proper time. When Herefrith asked when that time might be, St. Cuthbert replied, when God wishes, he will show you. Herefrith returned to Lindisfarne and told the brethren to pray for the ailing Cuthbert. Storms prevented the brethren from returning to Innerfarne for 5 days. When they did land there, they found the saint sitting on the beach by the guest house. He told them he had come out so that when they arrived to take care of him, they would not have to go to his cell to find him. He had been sitting there for 5 days and nights, eating nothing but onions. He also revealed that during those 5 days, he had been more severely assailed by demons than ever before. This time, St. Cuthbert consented to have some of the brethren attend him. One of these was his personal servant, the priest Bede. He asked particularly for the monk Wallstad to remain with him to help Bede take care of him. Father Herefrith returned to Lindisfarne and informed the brethren of Cuthbert's wish to be buried on his island. Herefrith and the others, however, wanted to bury him in their church with proper honor. Therefore, Herefrith went back to Cuthbert and asked for permission to do this. St. Cuthbert said that he wanted to be buried there at the site of his spiritual struggles, and he pointed out that the peace of the brethren would be disturbed by the number of pilgrims who would come to Lindisfarne to venerate his tomb. Herefrith insisted that they would gladly endure the inconvenience out of love for Cuthbert. Finally, the bishop agreed to be buried in the church on Lindisfarne, so the monks would always have him with them, and they would also be able to decide which outsiders would be allowed to visit his tomb. St. Cuthbert grew weaker and weaker, so the monks carried him back into his cell. No one had ever been inside, so they paused at the door and asked that at least one of them be permitted to see to his needs. Cuthbert asked for Wallstad to come in with him. Now, Wallstad had suffered from dysentery for a long time. Even though he was sick, he agreed to care for Cuthbert. As soon as he touched the holy bishop, his illness left him. Although he was sick and dying, St. Cuthbert healed his servant Wallstad. Remarkably, the holy man's spiritual power was not impaired by his bodily weakness. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Wallstad came out and announced that the bishop wanted them to come inside. Father Herefrith asked Cuthbert if he had any final instructions for the monks. He spoke of peace and harmony, warning them to be on guard against those who fostered pride and discord. Although he encouraged them to welcome visitors and offer them hospitality, he also admonished them to have no dealings with heretics or with those who lived evil lives. He told them to learn the teachings of the fathers and put them into practice, and to adhere to the monastic rule which he had taught them. After passing the evening in prayer, St. Cuthbert sat up and received Holy Communion from Father Herefrith. He surrendered his holy soul to God on March 20th, 687, at the time appointed for the night office. 11 years later, St. Cuthbert's tomb was opened, and his relics were found to be incorrupt. In the 9th century, the relics were moved to Norham, then back to Lindisfarne. Because of the threat of Viking raids, St. Cuthbert's body was moved from place to place for 7 years so that it would not be destroyed by the invaders. St. Cuthbert's relics were moved to Chester-le Street in 995. They were moved again because of another Viking invasion and then brought to Durham for safekeeping. Around 1020, the relics of Saints Bede, Aidan, Boycel, Ebb, Erdbert, Ethelwald, and other saints associated with St. Cuthbert were also brought to Durham. The tomb was opened again on August 24th, 1104, and the incorrupt and fragrant relics were placed in a newly completed cathedral. Relics of the other saints mentioned above were placed in various places around the church. The head of St. Oswald of Northumbria, however, was left in St. Cuthbert's coffin. In 1537, 3 commissioners of King Henry VIII came to plunder the tomb and desecrate the relics. St. Cuthbert's body was still incorrupt and was later reburied. The tomb was opened again in 1827. A pile of bones was found in the outer casket, probably the relics of the various saints, which had been collected 7 centuries before, then replaced after the Protestant commissioners had completed their work. In the inner casket was a skeleton wrapped in a linen shroud and 5 robes. In the vestments, a gold and garnet cross was found, probably St. Cuthbert's pectoral cross. As also found were an ivory comb, a portable wood and silver altar, a stole, pieces of a carved wooden coffin, and other items. These may be seen today in the Dean and Chapter Library of Durham Cathedral. The tomb was opened again in 1899, and a scientific examination determined that the bones were those of a man in his 50s, Cuthbert's age when he died. Today, St. Cuthbert's relics and the head of St. Oswald lie beneath a simple stone slab on the site of the original medieval shrine in the chapel of the 9 altars, and St. Bede's relics rest at the other end of the cathedral. The relics and the treasuries in the library make Durham an appropriate place for pilgrims to visit. And we have the intercessions of St. Cuthbert. And now we will read St. Cyril. I've been hearing more about him recently. He wrote a lot. He wrote a commentary on the scriptures and then some other things, but he was a very prolific writer. St. Cyril, Archbishop of Jerusalem. St. Cyril, Archbishop of Jerusalem, was born in Jerusalem in the year 315 and was raised in strict Christian piety. Upon reaching the age of maturity, he became a monk, and in the year 346, he became a presbyter. In the year 350, upon the death of Archbishop Maximus, he succeeded him on the episcopal throne of Jerusalem. As Patriarch of Jerusalem, St. Cyril zealously fought against the heresies of Arius and Macedonius. In so doing, he aroused the animosity of the Arian bishops, who sought to have him deposed and banished from Jerusalem. There was a miraculous portent in 351 at Jerusalem. At the 3rd hour of the day, on the feast of Pentecost, the Holy Cross appeared in the heavens, shining with a radiant light. It stretched from Golgotha above the Mount of Olives. St. Cyril reported this portent to the Arian Emperor Constantius, hoping to convert him to orthodoxy. The heretic Acacius, deposed by the Council of Sardica, was formerly the Metropolitan of Caesarea, and he collaborated with the emperor to have St. Cyril removed. An intense famine struck Jerusalem, and St. Cyril expended all his wealth in charity. But since the famine did not abate, the saint pawned church utensils and used the money to buy wheat for the starving. The saint's enemies spread a scandalous rumor that they had seen a woman in the city dancing around in clerical garb. Taking advantage of this rumor, the heretics forcibly expelled the saint. The saint found shelter with Bishop Silvanus in Tarsus. After this, a local council was held at Seleucia, at which there were about 150 bishops, and among them St. Cyril. The heretical Metropolitan Acacius did not want to allow him to take a seat, but the council would not consent to this. Acacius stormed out of the council, and before the emperor and the Arian patriarch Eudoxius, he denounced both the council and St. Cyril. The emperor had the saint imprisoned. When the emperor Julian the Apostate ascended the throne, he repealed all the anti-orthodox decrees of Constantius, seemingly out of piety. St. Cyril returned to his own flock, but after a certain while, when Julian had become secure upon the throne, he openly apostatized and renounced Christ. He permitted the Jews to start rebuilding the Temple of Jerusalem that had been destroyed by the Romans, and he even provided them part of the funds for the building from the state treasury. St. Cyril predicted that the words of the Savior about the destruction of the temple down to its very stones would undoubtedly transpire, and the blasphemous intent of Julian would come to naught. Soon there was such a powerful earthquake that even the solidly set foundation of the ancient Temple of Solomon shifted in its place, and what had been rebuilt fell down and shattered into dust. When the Jews resumed construction, a fire came down from the heavens and destroyed the tools of the workmen. Great terror seized everyone. On the following night, the sign of the cross appeared on the clothing of the Jews, which they could not remove by any means. Some of them were also, there's another account I read of this that St. John Chrysostom wrote, and he interviewed a bunch of people that were there, and he said there was a storm and there was lightning that struck people, and it left scars that were in the shape of crosses on the Jews as well. After his heavenly confirmation of St. Cyril's prediction, they banished him again, and the bishop's throne was occupied by St. Cyriacus. But St. Cyriacus soon suffered a martyr's death. After the Emperor Julian perished in 363, Saint Cyril returned to his see, but during the reign of the Emperor Valens, he was exiled for a third time. It was only under the Holy Emperor Saint Theodosius the Great that he finally returned to his archpastoral activity. In 381, Saint Cyril participated in the Second Ecumenical Council, which condemned the heresy of Macedonius and affirmed the Nicaea-Constantinople symbol of faith, the Creed. St. Cyril's works include 23 instructions. 18 are catechetical, intended for those preparing for baptism, and 5 are for the newly baptized, and 2 discourses on gospel themes, on the paralytic and concerning the transformation of water into wine at Cana. At the heart of the catechetical instructions is a detailed explanation of the symbol of faith. The saint suggests that a Christian should inscribe the symbol of faith upon the tablets of his heart. The articles of faith, St. Cyril teaches, were not written through human cleverness, but they contain everything that is most important in all the scriptures, a single teaching of faith. Just as the mustard seed contains all its plethora of branches within its small kernel, so also does the faith in its several declarations combine all the pious teachings of the Old and New Testaments. St. Cyril, a great ascetic and champion of orthodoxy, died in the year 386, and I was confusing him with St. Cyril of Alexandria, who is the one who wrote all the commentary on the scriptures. Please forgive me.
Yeah. There's also, is there a St. Clement of Rome and a St. Clement of Alexandria, or is there only a St. Clement of Rome?
I believe there's both.
Okay, that's what I thought. Because I was trying to remember which one wrote a certain thing, and then I was like, yeah, I should have looked it up, but it was a passing.
Yeah, there's both.
Passing thought. Okay.
And I did remember what I was going to share with everybody. It's actually quite lovely, but I'll wait until after we do Saint Fotini.
Okay.
And we have shared Saint Fotini before. I think this is a different account than the one we shared before because she's actually celebrated twice during the year. So this is the other time. Saint Fotini, the Samaritan woman, her sons and those with him. The holy martyr Fotini, or Fotini, sorry, that's how it's pronounced. The holy martyr Fotini, the Samaritan woman, her sons Victor, named Photinos and Iosi, and her sisters Anatoly, Fotida, Paraskevi, Kyriaki, Nero's daughter Domnina, and the martyr Sebastian. The holy martyr Fotini was the Samaritan woman with whom the Savior conversed at Jacob's well. During the time of the Emperor Nero, who displayed excessive cruelty against Christians, Saint Fotini lived in Carthage with her younger son Iosi and fearlessly preached the gospel there. Her eldest son Victor fought bravely in the Roman army against barbarians and was appointed as military commander of the city of Italia. Later, Nero called him to Italy to arrest and punish Christians. Sebastian, an official in Italy, said to St. Victor, "I know that you, your mother, and your brother are followers of Christ. As a friend, I advise you to submit to the will of the emperor. If you inform on any Christians, you will receive their wealth. I shall write to your mother and brother, asking them not to preach Christ in public. Let them practice their faith in secret." St. Victor replied, "I want to be a preacher of Christianity like my mother and brother." Sebastian said, "Oh, Victor, we all know what woes await you, your mother and brother." Then Sebastian suddenly felt a sharp pain in his eyes. He was dumbfounded, and his face was somber. For 3 days he lay there blind, without uttering a word. On the 4th day he declared, "The God of the Christians is the only true God." St. Victor asked why Sebastian had suddenly changed his mind. Sebastian replied, "Because Christ is calling me." Soon he was baptized, and immediately he regained his sight. After witnessing the miracle, St. Sebastian's servants were also baptized. Reports of this reached Nero, and he commanded that the Christians be brought to him at Rome. Then the Lord himself appeared to the confessors and said, "Fear not, for I am with you, Nero, and all who serve with him shall be vanquished." The Lord said to St. Victor, "From this day forward, your name will be Photinos, because through you, many will be enlightened and will believe in me. The Lord then told the Christians to strengthen and encourage Saint Sebastian to persevere until the end. All these things and even future events were revealed to the Saint Fotini. She left Carthage in the company of several Christians and joined the confessors in Rome. In Rome, the emperor ordered the saints to be brought before him, and he asked them whether they truly believed in Christ. All the confessors refused to renounce the Savior. Then Nero ordered that the joints of the martyrs' fingers be broken. During their torments, the confessors felt no pain, and their hands remained unharmed. Nero ordered that Saint Sebastian, Photinos, and Iosis be blinded and locked up in prison, and Saint Fotini and her 5 sisters, Anatoli, Fotida, Paraskevi, and Kyriaki, were sent to the imperial court under the supervision of Nero's daughter, Domnina. Saint Fotini converted both Domnina and all her servants to Christ. She also converted a sorcerer who had brought her poisoned food. 3 years passed, and Nero sent to the prison for one of his servants who had been locked up. The messengers reported to him that the saints Sebastian, Photinos, and Iosis, who had been blinded, had recovered their sight, and that people were visiting them to hear their preaching. And indeed, the whole prison had been transformed into a bright and fragrant place where God was glorified. Nero then commanded the saints to be crucified, and their naked bodies to be beaten with straps. On the 4th day, the emperor sent servants to see whether the martyrs were still alive. But approaching the place of the tortures, the servants became blind. An angel of the Lord freed the martyrs from their crosses and healed them. The saints took pity on the blinded servants and restored their sights by their prayers to the Lord. Those who were healed came to believe in Christ and were soon baptized. Enraged, Nero ordered that the skin be flayed from Saint Fotini's body, and then to throw her into a well. Sebastian, Photinos, and Iosis had their legs amputated, and they were thrown to dogs. Then their skin was flayed off. Saint Fotini's sisters also suffered terrible torments. Nero ordered soldiers to cut off their breasts and then to flay their skin. An expert in cruelty, the emperor prepared the most painful execution for Saint Fotida. Her feet were tied to the tops of 2 trees which had been bent to the ground. Then he cut the ropes. When the ropes were cut, the trees sprang upright, tearing the martyr apart. The emperor ordered the others beheaded. Saint Fotini was removed from the well and locked up in prison for 20 days. After this, Nero had her brought to him and asked if she would now relent and offer sacrifice to the idols. The courageous Fotini spat in the emperor's face. Mocking him, she said, "O most impious of the blind, you profligate and stupid man, do you think me so deluded that I would consent to renounce my Lord Christ and instead offer sacrifice to idols which are as blind as you are?" After hearing such words, Nero ordered that the martyr be thrown into the well again. There she surrendered her soul to God. In Greek usage, Saint Fotini is commemorated on February 26th. In Constantinople, there were 2 churches dedicated to Saint Fotini, where many miracles occurred, especially the healing of eye diseases. The head of Saint Fotini is kept at Grigorou Monastery on Mount Athos. May we have the intercessions of Saint Fotini. We have several people who have her as a patron saint in our parish. She's well loved. And now let me dig up the video I was going to share. It's not very long at all. It'll just take a second. Oh, there it is. Found it. I've seen this guy before on the internet. He's done some Q&As and stuff that were pretty fun and interesting. He's a mortician, and this is just a little video about his life. There's Shari just put a link in. If you want to join us, feel free to click the link. You don't have to have your camera on if you want to just come and talk to us. We'd love to
You have to turn it on before we let you on, though.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. You have to turn your camera so we know who you are. But then you don't have to have it on when we put you on.
If you don't want. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. But we would love to talk to you. Okay, let me share this video. It's not long, but it's very lovely.
You only have to bury so many people your age before you realize that it could be you. I didn't expect this lifestyle. I never expected to be a mortician, let alone a mortician in the middle of nowhere, Minnesota. But I love what I do. Having the opportunity to provide value, not just monetary value, that's not interesting to me, but to actually be of service is extremely gratifying. There are two halves of my job. There's the mortician half, which deals with the body, and then there's the funeral director half, which deals with the living. So the dead are wildly important in funeral service, but so are the living, and sometimes maybe even more important. These two things kind of seem opposite and quite frankly contradictory. One is kind of gruesome and grisly, and then there's the other half of the job, the other end of the spectrum, that's deeply personal. But yet to walk the middle ground between the living and the dead, you have to work with both. The very first body that I had really hands-on experience with, my first embalming, was someone my own age. An 18-year-old girl who died in a car crash before graduation. And I gotta tell you, that was extremely challenging. I still remember going home and telling my parents, this is really hard. And what I found then, and what I even find now, is that when faced with a hard thing, that I'm kind of in a privileged position. I was in a position where I could actually do something. So I could bring them a little bit of relief and comfort and provide them some peace instead of drawing their attention and their minds to maybe the things that led to their demise. Here, where I know the families, being in a small town in Warren, everything kind of becomes personal all of a sudden. You end up knowing almost everybody who comes through the door. So if you don't know the deceased, you certainly know some of their family. And as I'm getting the body looking like themselves, I can make sure that their hands sit just right, their head is facing the right way. I know exactly how he wears his hair because I've seen him exactly like that for a decade. There is just something so beautiful about the deep knowledge of the people that come through your door that is worth so much more than even the heartache that sometimes follows. This is for Peter Hefta, who died in 1888 and was buried in 1962. It's important to mark a grave. I think there's something to be said about living memory. I take care of one of the cemetery maps in my town, the Catholic cemetery. And looking through the records at the cemetery, I found that there are 5 unmarked graves. Who's been lying there for sometimes decades, unknown and kind of forgotten. It's been my mission, and is going to be my mission over the next couple years, to carve our headstones by hand and mark each of those 5 unmarked graves in the cemetery myself. Who you are, who you are remembered as, only lasts for as long as the last person who knew you. We are geared to grieve when we lose someone. People grieve best when they have something to do, something to give. Maybe holding an urn and passing it around at the graveside. Maybe shoveling dirt into the grave, or even give a eulogy. The ability to do something doesn't lessen grief, but I think it contextualizes it in a way that makes it a little bit easier to handle. In the grand scheme of things, I have all the things I need, some of the things I want. My wife likes me, and my kids wait for me to come home every day. That brief but powerful impact on even just a small number of people, the love of my family and the appreciation of my townspeople, is worth more than chasing a lot of other possessions or wealth. I have seen a lot of lives come and go, and the old adage of you can't take it with you is just terribly true.
Why did you share that?
I was moved by him, by his integration. It's one thing to be a mortician in a large city where you don't know anyone who you're helping, and you don't know any of the families. I was very moved by his sobriety and his ability to be a strong support and helper for people in his community who he knew and loved,
Yeah.
and who knew and loved him, and his ability to contextualize his life in the service of those who are in repose and their families in a small community. Someone from his parish passed away, and he was the one who was able to put that body to rest and help the family, and I was moved by how much meaning this man has found in his life through something that most of us have a very difficult time facing. And not only does he face it every day, but he has made peace with it, and then he even further helps others come to peace with it. And I thought that was just worth sharing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had a lot of thoughts while watching it. I mean, it was, first of all, the living and the dead, the lines are a little bit blurred for him, right?
Yeah.
Right. Which I really love. I think that's exactly right. The other thing I was thinking about, like my husband, his mom passed away at the beginning of the month. And the protocol now it's so, I don't even know how to say, desacralized.
Yeah. Yeah.
My daughter had the privilege of being there when my mother-in-law passed. It was in the early morning hours, and it was in a hospice. And the woman who runs the hospice, has that kind of, when you're around death and dying, you can't deny the fact that this is a movement from one threshold, one place to another, right?
Right.
There's no, the loss is that person is no longer in the land of the living. So for the living, there's a loss, but for the dying person, there's a gain, actually.
Right.
I mean, this is what St. Paul says, right?
Right.
To live is Christ, and to die is gain.
Yes.
But we do, and then there's nothing wrong with acknowledging people's suffering when they lose someone that they love,
Right.
But what I find missing is the memory. There's no memory held anymore. Like, it's just,
right.
Like my husband went to the church in the village that he grew up, because he's there right now. And they removed all the headstones in the church yard. And I mean, this is a very old church. Okay. There's no headstones, just green grass. And I mean, when I lived in Switzerland, they already had a law that you could only be buried there for 25 years, and then they took you out and made room for somebody else. And so most people are cremated because, well, I think it's actually the law now that you're cremated, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, that just generates a lot of thought for me, because I noticed the same thing in our little town. We have a graveyard, and it used to have headstones, and now it doesn't. They're gone. And I'm like, and it's not a very big place, and it's so poorly situated. It's in the middle
That's
of
heartbreaking.
in an industrial area, really, right? And I don't know what they're, I don't know if they're taking people out of the ground after a certain length of time, probably, because yeah.
Wow.
And then I remembered, these are all the thoughts I was having while I was watching this video.
Yeah.
And then I remembered when I was in India, if you didn't belong to a church officially as a Christian, then your body had nowhere to be buried.
Mm.
And so there were a number of the people I was staying with were non-denominational, so they had no place to be buried.
Yeah.
And they were of the opinion that it didn't matter anyway, because it was just a body and you could leave me on the side of the road. I don't care. Right?
Right.
Which I have to admit actually happened while I was there. It wasn't someone I knew, but a man had been hit by a vehicle at an intersection, and his body laid there for a week in the town that I was staying in. Okay? People were riding their motorcycles around him. Trucks were driving over it, So
that's wow.
Yeah. Karma's a bitch, man.
Yeah. Well, when you have a fatalist culture, that's how it is, right?
Yeah,
This is the side effect of fatalism.
Yeah, and we're eking our way there, like just little incrementally, right?
Yeah, they just took away the delay for the assisted. I read that today in Canada. There used to be a 10-day delay when you were requested to be assisted, and now there's no
delay.
No delay.
It's actually exceeded 100,000 deaths, and it's one of the leading causes of death in Canada now. Okay? And I just watched Danielle Smith put out she's the Premier of Alberta. Thank God. Thank God for Danielle Smith. She just put out a statement that they're not, because in 2026, this year, I think it's April, they're going to make it legal for strong minors without parental consent and people with mental illness. Whatever a strong minor is, okay? Without parental consent. And so she just said, no, we're not doing that in Alberta. I'm sorry. And there was a statement from a doctor in Alberta before Danielle Smith spoke. And the doctor said she's seeing people waiting. They have wait times for surgeries and life-saving surgeries and whatever treatments. No wait times for MAID. Medical assistance in dying. They call it MAID. It's
right.
it's so macabre.
It's just euphemized.
Horrific. Yeah. Okay. And it's concerning to her. And she was standing up for patients who were waiting for these things and who had been offered MAID more often as an alternative to a surgery. Okay? Then concession had been made for the treatment of their ailment, whatever it is. So some of them had been offered MAID already 5 times. So this is, and then the unfortunate crown, the inverted crown on top of all of this is the insistence on not honoring the dead with a headstone, with an actual body in the ground, Yeah. And then not even face, like, as family, like, this is something that is affecting my family at the moment. Not even a memorial, nothing.
Yeah, that's
Gone is gone, right?
yeah.
So for those left behind, those who are grieving, there's no closure. Like there's no it's
Yeah.
all the sacredness of death feels like it's just being like wiped off like chalk on a chalkboard.
It's the remembering, right? Like
Yeah.
that was another thing that really moved me about that video was he's remembering the 5 unmarked graves from the 1800s, and he's building the headstone for them. He's remembering them. He's bringing them back into memory by making those gravestones, and that is it is what we pray for, right? So it reminded me of the prayers for the departed. Let me share this with you real quick, because it's totally related to what you're talking about. I'll pray this prayer. O God of spirits and of all flesh, who hast trampled down death and overthrown the devil and given life to thy world, do thou the same, Lord, give rest to the souls of thy departed servants in a place of brightness, a place of refreshment, a place of repose, where all sickness, sighing, and sorrow have fled away. Pardon every transgression which they have committed, whether by word or deed or thought, for thou art a good God and lovest mankind, because there is no man who lives yet does not sin, for thou only art without sin. Thy righteousness is to all eternity, and thy word is truth. For thou art the resurrection of the life, and the repose of thy servants who have fallen asleep, O Christ our God. And unto thee we ascribe glory, together with thy Father, who is from everlasting, and thine all holy good and life-creating Spirit, now and ever, and unto ages of ages. Amen. That's not exactly the prayer I was looking for. That's a beautiful prayer, though. Don't get me wrong. But
No,
let's see. But it's basically, there was a prayer. I thought it was in that prayer. Forgive me, but that is, like I said, that's a very beautiful prayer. I love it. Let's see. It was basically like, on the day I die, remember me in that moment when I die, Lord, and send an angel to rescue me when I can no longer pray for myself.
well,
and that memory is like us praying for those in repose is how we participate in the Lord remembering them. You know, it's showing honor and respect for those in repose, especially our loved ones and our ancestors and our friends and teachers. So
there's a beautiful treatment of this whole thing in letter 7 of the Pillar and Ground of the Truth, and it's in the letter called Sin. And it's so interesting because he talks about what sin is, and then he moves into the subject and the contemplation of eternal memory. And I'm still pondering all that. I have no real thing to say about it, but about why he does that. I mean, why he goes from sin to eternal memory. But he's got a lot of liturgical prayers.
mm-hmm.
I won't read them all, but I did want to read. I did want to read a couple of things. So he talks about chaste life, and he gives a whole bunch of liturgical examples through So he says the whole office of burial is built on these inseparable ideas of justification, peace, bliss, and immortality, and the opposite ideas of sin, vanity, torment, and death. Christ's victory over death, the gift of life, is viewed as the overcoming of worldly passion, as the cooling of the inner burning of a sinful soul, as the illumination of sinful darkness, as the habitation of the just, Proverbs 3:33, as peace in God, as rest from sinful wandering, from works which are all impotent shadows and seductive and illusory dreams. As an example, let us take the following troparion. With the spirit of the departed righteous, give peace to the soul of thy servant, Savior, keeping him in the blessed life that surrounds thee, friend of men. In thy peaceful places, Lord, where all thy saints repose, give peace also to the soul of thy servant, for thou alone art the friend of men. And it just goes on and on about peace. So he says, such is the character of spiritual integrity as experience. Let us see now what it is from the ontological point of view. Chaste life is the integrity and incorruptness of man's being. And I've thought about this recently. I've been thinking about this a lot. And chastity is a promise to virginity, right? So I don't want to expand on that too much, but just think about that. Virginity, Florensky remarks, is wholeness, okay? Integrity. So chaste life is the integrity and incorruptness of man's being. That is its definition as existent in itself. For itself, it is the bliss of a heart made peaceful and measured, a heart brought from the boundlessness of desire to measure, a heart restrained by measure, made beautiful by measure. But, and this is the last question, what is this chastity, quote unquote, for another? And precisely for capital A, another. What is it as an aspect of God's life? It is God's memory, his eternal memory. Looking back into the past, we encounter darkness at its end and attempt in vain to distinguish in that darkness the forms that are similar to our remembrances. We experience then that impotence of enfeebled thought we call forgetting. Non-being is directly revealed in the form of forgetting, which negates it. The river of time carries everything. It carries everything because in this world, nothing has firm roots. Nothing has inner stability. All is an illusory dream, and people too are in flux. Everything is transient, everything passes by, everything fades away. There is only, and this is all capitalized, one who abides. Aletheia. Truth aletheia is unforgetfulness, which is not licked off by the streams of time. It is solid ground, not eaten away by corrosive death. It is essence most essential, in which there is no non-being at all. In truth, in the all caps incorruptible one, the corruptible being of this world finds its protection. From capital T truth, the strong one, capitalized, the world's being receives strength chastity. God gives victory over time, and this victory is remembrance by God, who does not forget. He himself is above time and can make everything commune with eternity. How? By remembering it. And then I'll just read this one last thing. If one asks now, what is the meaning of the phrase eternal memory, whether it requires after it genitivus objectivus or genitivus subjectivus, then on the basis of the foregoing, it must be admitted that both meanings are contained therein. For my eternal memory means both God's eternal memory of me and my eternal memory of God. In other words, it is the eternal memory of the church in which God and man converge. And this eternal memory is a victory over death.
Beautiful.
So if there is no memory, and for whatever reason, I don't really understand the psychology behind it, there is no desire to remember. There's no victory over death.
Right.
I mean, think about this. How nihilistic does the world then become when we take away the sacredness of losing a loved one? You know, like I was watching the video that you showed, and there's a lot of ceremony, even between those two men.
Yes.
There's a lot of thoughtful, contemplative, slow, deliberate movement around this person who is dead, like, if I just want to put it plainly. And my daughter told me a little bit about the experience of losing my mother-in-law. She was there for that, and the lady at the hospice said to her, "Would you like to help me wash the body and prepare the body?" It wasn't an embalming thing, it was just and and my daughter said, "Mom, it was so beautiful because the whole time we were doing this together, she was talking to Grossmutti." She was saying, "Hello, Alice. You did such a good job, and we're here. We're just going to wash your body now. And your granddaughter's here, and she's going to help me." And it was just this constant, and you're such a beautiful woman, and you've had such a beautiful life, But here's the deal. Essentially, this woman is a stranger.
Yes.
Where is this? I mean, my daughter was there. Her granddaughter was there.
Yeah. But that's exceptional, generally.
Yeah. But what, I don't want to sound too accusatory because I'm a little bit frustrated at the moment, but like, where is the family?
Yeah.
It's all handed off, right? It's
right.
like, would you hand off the birth of a child to a stranger? That's what it is, right? Like John O'Donohue talks about the deathbed as a birthbed, right? It's the same.
Yeah.
And well, here's the thing. If the transhumanists have their way, they will be handing it off to strangers. Birth, I mean.
Yeah. Well, right? Yeah, we've already largely done that with death, right? We don't remember our death anymore. And like you said, that we're removing gravestones. We're not remembering names, we don't pray for them. And, most churches don't have a list of people who are in repose that are prayed for, right? That's just a lost practice, in most, in a lot of churches. It's a sad thing. Because, well, like he said, you only live as long as someone who's alive is remembering you.
Right.
And now that day comes basically not long after you die anymore. Because, we do our best to just put it out of mind and let it go. And
during the lockdowns, one of the most heartrending things for me to think about were the elderly who were locked up and who were dying alone.
Yeah.
Because they were being treated like a disease.
Right.
Like some kind of infestation, like some kind of leper or something.
Yes. Perfect analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just so tragic to me, but thank God that God remembers.
Right.
And, Florensky goes on to talk about God's remembrance of us. And like he says, to be remembered by God is to be known by God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was studying about that today. The scripture where Christ says, I have never known you.
Mm-hmm.
That version, that known in Greek, is the same as the known Adam and Eve, Adam knowing his wife. It's that, right?
Intimate.
I've never known your heart. Like you never let me in.
Theosis.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these are heavy things to talk about and think about.
It's a concern.
Great Lent, right?
It is, but let's talk about it, because here's the deal. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's looking at it. Everybody's kind of just going with the flow.
Yep.
And the only way that you can change this, and if you think about it, like Florensky says, without remembering, there is no victory over death. Right. Is that how you want the world to live? Is that how you want people to live? I don't, because all it means is nihilism.
Right.
Okay.
Right. That death has the victory. The death wins. Yeah. Or the death is meaningless, which is the same thing, right?
Well, that's right. That's right. Yeah. And so, I'm thinking about this, because I'm like, well, first of all, the parish where I got baptized doesn't have a church. Hence, they have no graveyard. I don't even know if graveyards are allowed anymore. Like, I don't know.
In Canada?
Yeah, I mean, the graveyard in Williams Lake is it's looking like grass. It's got little plaques in the ground. It's probably just urns.
Wow.
Like, no bodies, right? Where are the bodies?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're all, I don't know. I don't know, actually. I looked into making a plot of land on our farm as for a graveyard, which you can do. But as soon as you do it, you can't sell your farm anymore.
So what happens to it? The government takes it, or what?
It can't be sold.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, one of my high school friends' father was a mortician. My friend and his siblings were occasionally brought in to assist, typically with the families and arrangements and such. Yeah.
I wonder how that was for them, Slack. Did they experience that as positive or negative? I'm going to guess positive, but you never know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway,
it might be one of those things where it doesn't really land with you until you're older and you look back and go, "Whoa."
But, Jeremy, does your parish have a graveyard?
No, we don't.
Oh yeah.
There's because my dad is making negative at the time, because my dad is making me do stuff. Yeah.
But yeah, as they got older, it was, it floated back to them in a different way. That's good.
But we have another parish that's about an hour south of our parish, and the plan is to have a cemetery, and I know there's a couple people buried there. As to the complete legality of said interments, I don't know.
It's weird.
Yeah, but we have there's a cemetery in Salt Lake. It's like the Mount of Olives, and a lot of Orthodox people, when they pass, that's where they go, because most of the churches downtown don't have
their own cemeteries.
They don't have their own cemetery around it. There's no room. So, but there is a cemetery where most of the Orthodox that I've known of are buried. So,
I was watching a video of some people that bought a church in England, old church, and renovated it into a house for themselves, and they had a cemetery.
I would like that.
Yeah.
I would like that. my daughter, her dorm room, she has to walk along a road, to get to school, and right along that road is a cemetery. And I think it's great. I think it's good to remember.
Yeah.
that you don't have much time and you're not taking anything with you, So.
Yeah. Yep. Well, hopefully this is not depressing for people, but these are just as you get older, and both my husband and I had pretty near-death experience. His was like far nearer than mine.
Mm-hmm.
But what do we do? What do we do after this happens? What are my children going to do? What do I do if I have to bury him? What is he going to do if he has to bury me?
Yeah.
These are all things that I've been thinking about for a while, actually. And I don't even know. Like, I really don't. Like, yeah, it's kind of tragic, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, it is sad that we don't have a clear path, like a known landing spot,
Well, because of remembering, Jeremy.
Yes, right.
Right?
Yeah, well, that's a beautiful practice. I saw in a video about Alaska, and they do this. I mean, it's in all parishes that have a cemetery. And man, what day of the year is it? Is it Pascha? I believe it's Pascha. So on Pascha, they go out and they're processing through the cemetery, and they're censing all of the graves, and they're leaving the red egg on every grave marker, and they're praying. I mean, those people get prayed for every day, right? Every liturgy they're getting prayed for. But on top of that, it's a special remembrance each year, memorial for everybody. They're going out and celebrating Pascha with those who are in repose.
There's this crazy gold rush story of this guy who he was somewhere in the Klondike, in the Yukon. He's an American guy. And he said to his friends, if I die, take me home, right?
Mm.
Back when I worked in the office before 20, I used to walk the grounds of St. Martin's on Breaks and St. Martin's Abbey cemeteries. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Anyway, so he just made them promise that yeah. Yes, very moving, I think. I like to visit cemeteries too. He made them promise that they would bring him home, that they wouldn't bury him just in the woods, because he didn't want to be forgotten.
Right.
And so they did this crazy thing. They put him in it was lead coffin, and they filled it up with whiskey to preserve the body, and then sealed it, and they dragged it like through that pass that goes over the mountain into the Klondike. Have you ever seen pictures of that? It's a crazy pass. I can't remember the name of it now. Many people died there, and yeah, they dragged it through snow and like put it on a steamship, and memory.
Yeah, it reminds me of it actually reminds me of the cremation of Sam McGee, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite poems. It's one of the best.
It's one of the best. Yeah.
I was looking to see if I could find the video where they were going out and sensing the graves.
Well, it's interesting because First Nations here, they all have on reserve. They have I don't think they could open it, Afriel. It was sealed. They all have graveyards on reserve, but First Nations doesn't. So they have a tradition of not naming the person after they die.
Yeah.
And they also don't tend the graves. So the graveyards look really like destitute, like they're falling over, and but that's their culture, to not go near the dead, so to speak.
Yeah.
But there's another group. So that's the Chilcotin people. There's another group here called the carrier. And the reason they're called carrier is because they used to put the dead out for carrion, but that's not where their name comes from. And when the bones were cleaned, they would collect them and they would carry them on their backs forever.
Wow.
So they had a culture of remembering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're the barbarians now because we've forgotten these things, right? Like,
oh, slack. I went to go visit my grandparents after mid-Westuary and catch them up on the past 30 to 40 years. Spent a long time trying to figure out where they were, and they were right next to the walkway. Waiting for you. They've been waiting for you, slack. Yeah.
I don't think I would try the whiskey after I don't know if you saw the show last week, Afriel. I wanted to, if you didn't, I want to apologize to you for not reaching out. I had a pretty tight schedule. I was visiting monastery, visiting with my sister, visiting my other sister, and then my niece was there. So I didn't really have a lot of time to get together with you. Please forgive me for not reaching out to you. I think I found some videos that have some cemetery stuff in Alaska. Let's see if one of them. Let's see if we found what we're looking for.
Okay.
Let's see. I don't think this is it. Yeah, this is just a funeral. Sorry, that's not the one. Let's find a different one.
We're at a Russian Orthodox church. When was this built, Steve?
I don't know. Here's the original church over here. Go around here, you see it's got a cross on top.
This isn't the one I saw, but yeah, you can see they have the spirit houses there outside the church.
Final resting place. And the Russian Orthodox cross, the triple cross.
So this isn't the one I was looking for either, but you can see there the way they mark the graves is pretty beautiful. Let's look at this one. This looks like just there's not a ceremony here. I don't remember where that video was, forgive me. But this is like you were saying though, where they don't really.
Yeah, exactly. And many of the graveyards on reserve look like this. Like they have houses even. I mean, they were all Catholic, right? First Nations in the Chilcotin. So, yeah.
But yeah, they would, on Pascha, they'll go out and cense all of the graves.
Yeah.
And sing Pascha hymns. So.
Well, I feel like I want to read something that is encouraging, since we're talking about death and grieving and loss.
That's
and
good.
I like
it. Yeah.
This is something that John O'Donohue just expresses so beautifully.
Real quick, Afriel, yes, I did have a really nice visit. Thank you. I kind of talked about it more last episode, but so I appreciate your forgiveness there, your mercy. But I had a really good time. It was very restorative, and the monastery, for anyone who hasn't been there, it's worth the trip to go to. It's on Vashon Island. There's a ferry. There's a car ferry, so you can drive a car onto the ferry, and you have a car over when you get onto the island. And man, it was beautiful. So a little hidden gem. It's not a big monastery. There's there were only 5 or 6 monks there besides Abbot Trifon, but it was a real joy to go there. Had a great time. So
okay, I'm going to just read it. I'm going to read a couple things here from John O'Donohue.
okay.
This is called, he titles this section, "The Most Remarkable Thing I've Ever Heard." If someone were to ask me what is the most remarkable thing you have ever heard, I would say, the most remarkable thing I ever heard is there is death. When we were children, there was an old woman who minded us now and again. She lived across the river, and it was a real treat when we were brought to visit her. She was like a grandmother to us. Though everyone was poor, she could always manage to have some surprise put aside for us. And then one day she died. It was the first time I heard of death. To a child's mind, it was the most incredible news. She was gone and would never come back. We would never see her again, and no one could say where she had gone. They talked of heaven, but it seemed like a feeble fairy tale when pitted against her vanishing. I could not believe it. Death had come out of nowhere and taken her. I never once even suspected that there was such a thing as death. It came as a pure shock. To think that everyone had known about death all along, and that they could continue working and talking while knowing this awful end, this bleak disappearance awaited each of us. To a child's mind, it was a massive breakage of innocence. What struck me, too, was how silently death came to take her. One surely would have expected that such an intensely dramatic event would have been accompanied by a great whirl of sound and color, and yet the opposite had happened. Death was not an action, it was an anti-act. I love that sentence. It came silently and left an awful silence in its wake. There is deep silence in death. It can carry out its task without invitation or warning. Death needs no word to frighten or force anyone. In silence, it takes you into a silence from which no echo returns. From the moment of your beginning, through all days and climates of mood and dream, the music of your heart has never stopped. Sending its rhythm along vein and bone, it has held you alive and present. Even when you visited deep into the realm of silence, your heart's music never ceased. Only death's silence will stop it. Death is also the master of stillness. Everything that has life moves. Raised on a farm, we learned early to notice the slightest movement against the spread of a landscape. The hillman's eye could spot something stirring far off on the other side of a hill. It may have been a hare, a rabbit, another animal, or a bird. The eye was trained to the rhythm of the place. Against the backdrop of this familiar landscape, if an animal seemed too still, that altered the eye too. The animal could be sick or dead. In the world of nature, life moves, but death makes still. When you first see the remains of someone who has died, what strikes you is how a presence that was always astir with voice, gesture, and gaze is suddenly enveloped in cold stillness. Your eye wants to believe the person is merely asleep. You imagine, you glimpse the chest stirring with breath. You stare deeper and your eyes recoil from the unnatural stillness. A neighbor who lived near 2 elderly ladies told me how he was called to the house as one of them had been taken ill. As soon as he came into the kitchen, he realized the woman was dead. Poignantly, her sister was holding her hand, shaking her, and calling her name over and over as if trying to waken her from sleep. The neighbor gently calmed her and explained that her sister had gone. Her inability to register had been due to shock, and also to the inability to see her loss. In a way, it was a natural response. She had never seen her sister dead before. It is a tremendous shock to come upon a loved one freeze-framed in that stillness. The act of dying is a huge personal event. Nothing else that you do in your life will bring such change. In no other experience is the transformation as ultimate and irreversible. In no other experience in your life do you have the opportunity to become invisible. Your death will make you permanently invisible. You will become free of the human gaze and free of place. While you are alive, you are always somewhere. Through death, you will be no longer bound to any location. Death is the absolute and irreversible event of change. Friends and family who surround the departing one are confined to the outer perimeters of the event. There is a journey beginning here, but it is not a physical journey. It is a real journey. Someone is leaving and will not be returning. Yet the journey is into an interior, and it is an invisible journey. At birth, the journey here creates the traveler. The invisible becomes visible. At death, the return journey recreates the traveler, and the visible becomes invisible again. We prefer to avoid talk of death. It is amazing that aside from minimal and superficial reference, the theme of death is absent from most of our conversation. Our culture avoids it too. Where time is money, no one really wants to focus on that edge where time runs out on you. Our education system never really considers it. We have no pedagogy of death. Consequently, death is something we are left to deal with in the isolation of our own life and family. When death visits, there is no cultural webbing to lighten the blow. Death can have a clean strike because the space is clear. Against this background, it is not surprising that we are never told that one of the greatest days' work we could ever do in the world is to help someone die. Death is the mother of beauty, hence from her alone shall come fulfillment to our dreams and our desires. Wallace Stevens, The Deathbed as Altar. The image of the deathbed frightens us. We end up there because someone we love is departing, but we don't really know what we should do. As well as being distraught with sadness, we are unsure and awkward. We usually resort to cliché or rush for religious ritual. Yet some people instinctively reach into the heart of the event and extract the treasure. A deathbed is a special and sacred place. A deathbed is more like an altar than a bed. It is an altar where the flesh and blood of a life is transformed into eternal spirit. Rather than being unsure, anxious, and bungling, we should endeavor to be present there with the most contemplative priestly grace. Regardless of the shock and pain of our grief, our whole attention should be dedicated to the one who is setting off on their solitary journey. We will have plenty of time later to engage our own grief. Now we need to provide the best shelter, the sweetest love, the most sensitive listening, and the most wholesome words for the one who is dying. This is the most significant time, the last moments of time on earth. Therefore, it is vital to attend and listen. Perhaps there are last things a person wishes to say, things from long forgotten pastimes he always wished to say but never could. Before the great silence falls, he might desperately need to tell something, and there may be things that need to be heard. Perhaps someone around that deathbed has waited all their life to hear something vitally healing and encouraging, and perhaps these are the hours in which it might be heard. He has such beautiful writing on death, and I actually think it's because he, as a child, had this experience where he couldn't believe that nobody told him about death.
Yeah.
You know, like, why are they acting normal when this is coming? You know,
Right? Yeah.
and I mean, he was a Catholic priest for, I think, 19 years. So he attended many deathbeds, and he said it was the most beautiful experience those were the most beautiful moments. He saw years and years of vision and ease within families being healed at deathbeds. And he talks a lot about people who can't deal with it need to get out of the room, because as I read there, this is a moment where you need to be completely present to the person
Yes.
who's dying.
Yes. Yeah.
And one of the things that because I read his book and I have a better understanding of the Orthodox Church of death, when my mother-in-law passed, I felt very participatory
Mm.
in her journey.
Mm. Yeah.
It was great. It was actually really, really great.
Yeah.
You know?
She's still in transit.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. 40
So
days.
So yeah, it's yeah, and I have a little place set up in my home for her and to remember her, and I pray for her and I talk to her, and yeah.
That's
And
good.
one of the things I keep saying to her at this point in time is, you are not forgotten.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
What is this? 2 camps. One group wants to ignore and pretend it'll never happen to him. The other group has already understood and integrated it. Yeah.
I think, I think there is an ignore and pretend, and I've also seen a deep fear in some people, a very deep. I mean, that's what 2020 showed me.
Regarding why nobody talks about it.
Yeah. I think a lot of people have not confronted it, and they haven't accepted that it will come to them too.
If you look at, sorry, I'm interrupting you. Go ahead.
Oh, that's right. I was just going to say, yeah. Then, I think that's what led to a lot of the madness of 2020 was people, and it didn't matter. Like I'm not talking about just non-religious people. I saw it in church too. People who had not really dealt with the fact that they're going to die, and they were terrified, and they would do anything, including like turn their own families in to buy themselves a little more time, the illusion of it even, right? It's just, it's very, I think it's very tragic. Thankfully I grew up, my dad was like, it was just a normal part of our lives to, he would just frequently say, today's a good day to die, or he would say, dying is part of living, and it was not, there was no deep mystery or terror surrounding it. It was just an accepted part of your life that today might be the last day. Tonight when you lay down, that might be the nice last time you lie down, right? Like that was just a part of my childhood growing up. That growing up and living around farms and around animals and around
machinery.
Yeah, but I mean living around animals and pets
dying.
and dying and and eating pig and eating lamb and eating beef and knowing exactly where it came from, right? Because you've been feeding it you've been feeding that animal, right? I think it was good. I think it was helpful, although I still had my own fear I had to get over. I was deeply anxious and felt deep
I think
terror over it for a long time, when I was probably in my 20s and 30s.
John O'Donohue talks a lot about for the dying person, they're vacating 2 things that have always been there for them: the world and their bodies.
Yeah.
And so he has so much compassion for that moment where everything you've ever known and the 2 things that have always been there for every experience you've ever had, you're leaving, right?
Yes.
He talks about it as a pathos.
Yeah.
And
I like that in the Orthodox tradition, for the first 3 days, you're going around to your favorite places and people and times. So you're because you're not in time anymore either.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're able to travel to those experiences, those memories.
Yeah.
And remember, as you're transitioning, you're able to remember the milestone, the meaningful parts of your own life. You know, you'll be able to re-experience them, and reconnect with them, and from what they say that helps ease the transition.
Mm-hmm.
And but this is a very old tradition, because this is why Lazarus was left in the tomb to the 4th day, because they believed that your spirit stayed with your body for 3 days, and then your spirit would leave your body. So Christ was revealing that indeed Lazarus' spirit was not in his body, and it was gone. So anyway, yeah, that's also helped me, that idea of, you know, revisiting parts of your life.
Yeah.
Well, Slack is saying, I don't have to talk about it because I'm going to live forever.
Well, I wanted to point out that comment because I get it. I get what he's getting at. You know, the whole transhumanist movement is really that, right?
Yes.
I'm going to live
Yeah.
forever. It's
You're going to trap your consciousness in silicon and
sorry.
bonkers.
I joined at an upbeat moment. We've been
This has been a heavy episode, brother.
but like I said earlier, just since you joined, Mark, we got to turn this around, okay? Because what did Florensky say? If you're not remembering, right, the dead, if there is no memory, eternal memory, there's no victory over death.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's a big statement. Like that should offer us quite a bit of clarity on why this modern way of approaching death is so, it feels wrong to us. Like, come on, it just intuitively does, right? You can't just it's like, I don't know, it's like sweeping dust off the floor and throwing it in the trash can, you know? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
We're trying to do it with a little, at least I'm trying to do it with a bit of a levity here.
Yeah. This is not a levity poem, but it is one that always comes to mind when this topic comes up. So I'm going to share Out by Robert Frost.
Oh, yeah. Good one.
Out. The buzzsaw snarled and rattled in the yard and made dust and dropped stove-length sticks of wood. Sweet-scented stuff when the breeze drew across it. And from there, those that lifted eyes could count 5 mountain ranges, one behind the other, under the sunset far into Vermont. And the saw snarled and rattled, as it ran light or had to bear a load. And nothing happened. Day was all but done. Call it a day, I wish they might have said, to please the boy by giving him the half hour that a boy counts so much when saved from work. His sister stood beside them in her apron to tell them, supper. At the word, the saw, as if to prove saws knew what supper meant, leaped out at the boy's hand, or seemed to leap. He must have given the hand. However it was, neither refused the meeting, but the hand. The boy's first outcry was a rueful laugh as he swung toward them holding up the hand, half in appeal, but half as if to keep the life from spilling. Then the boy saw all. Since he was old enough to know, big boy, doing a man's work, though a child at heart, he saw all spoiled. Don't let him cut my hand off. The doctor, when he comes, don't let him, sister. So. But the hand was gone already. The doctor put him in the dark of ether. He lay and puffed his lips out with his breath. And then the watcher at his pulse took fright. No one believed. They listened at his heart. Little, less, nothing. And that ended it. No more to build on there. And they, since they were not the one dead, turned to their affairs.
Jeremy, you're bringing the heavies.
Well, this is. I think I've mentioned this before. Everyone is listening has probably heard me say this, but it was very meaningful to me to learn that the word Lent is Latin for lens.
Yeah.
And so Great Lens is you're turning a lens on your life. You're turning a lens on your heart. You're turning a lens on the most meaningful parts of your life. And, it's a memento mori. It's the idea of keeping your death in mind. In our prayers, we say where we're standing over our bed, we're saying this bed may be my grave. And if it is, remember me, remember me in that moment. And so, yeah, it is. It's good to be the one it's good to be not the one dead. There's a phrase I heard a guy say one time. I said, "How are you today?" He said, "Well, I'm still on the right side of the dirt." So that's something. And I agree, right? Like we are here and we have time. We do have time to prepare. We have time to repent. We have time to reconcile with our loved ones and reconcile with God. And this is that time. This is Great Lent. This is the time of where we're in the cave of our souls and reflecting. And I think the big impetus for me was just coming across that video and seeing that man was living a very medieval life in like all of the most beautiful ways, where he was integrated as part of his community, part of his parish. He was remembering those who were passed. He loved them. He knew them. He was respectfully caring for them after they had passed. And he was helping the families through that transition as well. And then also making the gravestones for those who were buried in unmarked graves.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was such a beautiful, poetic gesture of memory eternal, right?
Yeah. And it was also impressive to me that he wasn't an old man. He was a young man. And
yeah,
as an optimist, I think that the I don't like to say it in a condescending way. I don't mean it that way, but young people younger than me, because when I was that age, I was at the cusp of let's just do a memorial. Funerals were on their way out. Like when I was a little kid, it was always a funeral. And then it just kind of morphed into this, let's have we'll do it in, how about we do it in the summer and then we can have a garden party, and there was just everybody was trying to change it up so that it was less painful. The only thing I can think of.
Yes.
And nobody had to be subjected to another person's grief either. I think,
Yeah. Because they didn't want to deal with their own.
Yeah. Well, for whatever reason, I have no clue.
Yeah.
I honestly, Jeremy cannot figure it out. But anyway, he's a young guy with young children, and he has a young family, and he's facing this thing head on.
Yep.
And that gives me hope, because honestly, you can't do that without a sacramental worldview.
Right.
Okay. So it's not like he's having to change his mind about death. No, he's changed his mind about the whole world.
Right.
In order to face death.
Yes.
Right. And the opposite is also true. If you don't want to face death, then you have to actually get rid of the sacramental worldview. You have to get rid of it altogether.
And that's what's happening, right? I mean, that's what's been happening since the Enlightenment.
Right.
That's what the Enlightenment was about, the so-called Enlightenment, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, people have said, it's too expensive, it's just, it's just consumerism. And sure, there's truth to that. But yeah, they have many excuses for not participating. And this is what I mean, like with my mother-in-law here, this was new for me, and it came very naturally because my exposure to Orthodox theology and the way things are thought about. It's just, I participated with her in this journey.
Yeah.
And am participating with her in this journey.
Yeah. 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 That's I had something and then I was listening to you and then it went away. That's been happening to me a lot more. It's very good. It's actually a really good sign for me because I used to just like have this thing and I was like holding it. And I was only half listening.
Right.
And now, now I'm able to be more present. And so then I lose the things that came to mind. But it's,
well, I was talking about this young man and hope for this generation because it means he has a sacramental worldview. I don't know if that jogged.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that and they're trying to erase that. They're trying to hide that. They're trying to. Oh, I do remember. Did I tell this story about Abbot Trifon? So I met with him. I had a private meeting with him, and then after our meeting, we were leaving his study, and there was a coffin there, and he goes, "Yeah, I had a young man make, here from here on the island. He made my coffin for me, and it's painted black and it had a red Orthodox cross on it.
Yeah,
and he said, "I'm a little astonished at how big it is. It's like I didn't know I was that big." Because he's kind of bent over now. He's had some back surgery, but he's a big man. And he goes, another guy I showed it to, he said, I should use it as a wine locker. And he said, and I think that's a good idea, but I'm afraid that the brothers would keep using it as a wine locker after I pass, and they'll just throw me into the ground. So I don't know if I want to let them use it as a wine locker.
Mm.
And, just that kind of just sobriety in the face of it. And it reminded me also, I heard Bishop Luke speak, and he's the abbot of Jordanville Monastery. And he said, when they get a novice there, after there's a get to know somebody period. But then when they become a novice, the first thing that he has them do is their first job is to dig their grave out in the graveyard where all the monks are buried. They go, and here's where your spot's going to be. And you dig a grave. And he said, once your grave is dug, that is where you say all of your prayers for the first year. Is in that grave.
Yeah.
And, that it just ties to my upbringings really strongly. So it resonates for me because that was just always a part of that, just like familiarity. My dad would just say, like, I know I'm going to look death in the face. And he said, I just pray that on that day I'll have the courage to not turn my eyes. Right. To not avert my eyes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I just think it's really healthy. And I think, like I said, this time of year, like this is for me, memento mori, and as I had a recent medical issue. All of these things are like
top of mind.
Oh yeah. Top of mind. Right. I've lost a couple of good friends. I had another friend who was in a tragic accident, and he's paralyzed now. Another relative who was just in a serious motorcycle accident yesterday. It's like I'm getting reminders from all over the place that today's a good day to die, and you got to be ready.
Yeah,
you got to be ready. You can't sleep on it, right? You can't put it off. You can't pretend that it doesn't matter.
Well, there's that. And I mean, I had a medical thing too. But that didn't, this for me, the facing of death came in 2008 for me
Mm.
when I did something very foolish and almost died, right?
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And after that, there was a renewal of like, I don't know how to put it, of the joy of life, of being alive. What, like, the question then for me became, well, what does it now mean to be alive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
Yeah, amen. Right. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it's
right. That's a good
that,
perspective. I like that.
that's what it meant for me, Spock, was, what does it mean to live, right? And I said to an occupational therapist who was helping me at the time, I said to her, she said to me at one point, stop talking about yourself in the past tense, because there was a lot of things I couldn't do anymore because of my brain injury. And I was always trying to beef up my own image, to her, to me, I don't know who, but it just felt like a necessity to say, well, I used to this and I used to that, and I could do it all at once. And and I had all these things going on, and I was just so capable, and at the time I felt completely like a loser. Okay.
Yeah,
Total
right.
loser. And then she said to me, stop talking about yourself in the past tense. Who are you now?
Mm.
And that was the thing I didn't want to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I didn't know who I was. Actually, didn't recognize the person who I was anymore. And I mean, that just spun around in my mind a lot. And then one day I had this like aha moment, and I said to her, oh, you know what? This is actually, people are usually just whipping down the road at 100 miles an hour. They never get a chance to just stop and assess. Right?
Yep.
Like, am I living? Am I waiting to get around to living? Am I just waiting for retirement? I'm like, and I said to her, I came to a dead stop. I came to a stop sign, and now I can choose, right? That was in 2008. And I certainly can't say that I immediately like took a left turn or anything and then suddenly loved life. It was a very uphill climb. But when I got to a certain point, I realized how beautiful it is to live and what it means to be alive. Because it's not that, oh, good, I get extra time on the earth. It's existential in the sense that this is the gift God gave me.
Yes.
It's my life.
Yes.
That's the gift, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so while you cough, I hope you recover. Whoa, are you okay? Okay. So another related to that, I used to have a lot of anxiety about whether I was I don't know, living life appropriately, or if God was pleased with my life or whatever, or what the purpose of my life was, or what I needed to accomplish. I had some survivor guilt, actually, because I had been in a serious car accident when I was 14. And so it made me feel like I should be doing something like really meaningful and important with my life. And I for a long time carried this weight of feeling like I had not, like I hadn't earned that grace that I had been given. I hadn't earned that time by doing something grandiose and important. And I was talking with my priest about this quite a while ago, but he told me, it was a huge relief when he said, the purpose of your life is your salvation. And that's it. So, I would try to imagine like doing some grand work of charity, or writing some brilliant book, or helping people or going to visit sick people or, learn how to be a doctor, whatever. And and all of that is helpful, but it's not, or it can be helpful. It can also be a distraction, but it wasn't the true purpose. And once my priest had kind of aligned me properly, at least oriented me properly, it made it much easier for me to, I was alleviated of my anxiety of, being afraid that I was going to die at the wrong time, or that I wasn't going to fulfill some unknown purpose, but instead that I could just focus. It gave me something to focus on. It gave me something to work on, and to feel like, okay, my purpose is to just grow closer to Christ. Like, it is to please Christ and to find ways to do things that would make him happy, and find ways to spend time with him in undistracted ways. And that helps a lot. It has helped me a lot to have that new viewpoint. Are you okay? You're back.
I'm okay. My eyes are
Okay,
open.
good.
I just had a coughing fit.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's all right. It's happened to me on this show.
I have this little, when I get excited and I talk at a certain register, I have this demon that just goes,
Ah,
yeah.
yeah.
And gets me like off guard.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah. Florensky talks about beauty, and beauty and beautiful people, ascetics as lovers of beauty and becoming beautiful.
Yeah.
And what I read you from Donahue is from this book, Divine Beauty, The Invisible Embrace. And one of the things he talks about a lot is death.
Yeah.
And so, like going back to what I was talking about with my life, that encounter that I had with death showed me how beautiful my life was, actually.
Yeah.
And it also showed me that, when God has plans for you to, let's say, prosper, he's not talking about material wealth.
Right.
He's talking about you having a good life and a healthy life. And the reason that's important, I think, is because beauty radiates and attracts and is manifestation of the image of God in you.
Yeah.
And so you become a city set on a hill, right?
Right.
And I just know, for the sake of my own children, actually, that for me to have snuffed out that light would have been probably the worst thing that I could have ever done to anybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have an obligation to my children, my husband, and my friends to live my life, to live.
Yeah.
Fully live.
Right. Yeah.
And all of that was made apparent to me when I came very close to not being alive. But I was, like Slack said, I was already dead.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't living. And it's more than just sucking air in and out of your face.
Yeah. Right.
Really.
Yeah.
So, all this talk of death, your life is your spiritual path. And it is, when in Genesis, when God says, let us be making, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let us make. But it's actually, the Hebrew there is be making. That's what this journey is about to me, is being made.
Right.
Coming
into being. Yeah.
yeah, being made, from the likeness to the image, right? Becoming more like the image.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying with all that is we have an obligation to not be dead.
Yeah.
To be alive, and to be beautiful as a result of it, to be made beautiful. Yeah. And we can do that by encountering death. And you can
Yes.
either encounter it as an experience, like getting close to it, which is not fun, or you can encounter it by facing it on a regular basis.
Right.
I mean, even Heidegger said all the problems in the world are because of our thrownness towards death. So we got to deal with it. We got to look at it.
Yep. Sit with it.
Sit with it. Be at
Yeah.
peace with it.
Yeah.
Help others to make the journey.
Yes.
Don't try to wipe it from your memory.
Right.
Hold it in a sacred place, like you would hold an infant.
That's probably a good place to fade out. I'm getting tired.
We'll be back next week, though. Don't worry.
We'll be back next week. Yeah, that's not the end. God willing. I mean, God willing, who knows? Right? Like today is a good day to die. We don't know. Yeah, I'm grateful for the show. I'm grateful that you all join us. I'm grateful that you spend your time with us. I hope that it helps. I hope you remember your loved ones who are in repose. I hope you remember that you one day will be in repose, and I hope that you reconcile with your loved ones so that they will remember you. That's the chain. That's the great chain of being, right?
Yeah. I'm gonna close this out with a blessing from John O'Donohue.
Love it.
A beauty blessing. As stillness in stone to silence is wed, may your heart be somewhere a God might dwell. As a river flows in ideal sequence, may your soul discover time is presence. As the moon absolves the dark of distance, may thought light console your mind with brightness. As the breath of light awakens color, may the dawn anoint your eyes with wonder. As spring rain softens the earth with surprise, may your winter places be kissed by light. As the ocean dreams to the joy of dance, may the grace of change bring you elegance. As clay anchors a tree in light and wind, may your outer life grow from peace within. As twilight fills night with bright horizons, may beauty await you at home beyond.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
That's beautiful. Well,
yeah, thanks for being here, everybody. Really
thank you. Yeah, it means a lot to us that you join us and you spend your time with us. And we work really hard to not waste it. So thank you for trusting us, and we'll do our best. But we understand if we fall short sometimes, or if you need to go. So anyway, thank you all. Good night. Good night. Good night, Slack. And good night to all of you. God bless you. And God willing, we'll see you next week.
Good night.